Thursday evening for our Talking Faith Zoom session. As you can see, this session is being recorded, so if you'd rather not have your face on the recording, then please do feel free to turn your video off, or if you have difficulty doing that with the technology, then just let Tom know afterwards and we will do our best to make sure you're not included in any of the recordings. So I hope that is okay with everyone. I would invite you, while our guest speaker is sharing with us in a few moments, that you remain on mute, and then there will be opportunity for some chat later. I would obviously invite you then to come back off mute and to share in your small groups, and then there'll be some chance to chat all together with any questions or comments as well. But that would just be really helpful if you could do that as well. So we're going to start, as you can see, our agenda helpfully displayed for you, just by sharing some information about children, work with children and young people in the Synod. So I'm just going to share my screen and just let you see, hot off the press, actually just today, not that we print it, but you know what I mean. It's a brand new, just released this afternoon, our latest children and youth newsletter from the Synod. So hopefully you can see that and you can see exactly what's included there. There's a quick list there, but I just want to highlight a couple of things to you. That's a little bit of blurb for me. You can read that later. Particularly, I want to highlight that we are running again Youth Alpha across the Synod. And last year we ran Youth Alpha, and we had a very, very small group of young people. But let me tell you, it was an absolutely transformational experience for those young people. They were already connected with the church, so they weren't seekers in that sense. Often Alpha is seen as something primarily for those seeking. But in terms of our response, the children and young people, to this Talking Faith theme, it was something that young people had asked for. And so we offered Youth Alpha for them, and it has given them a tremendous amount of confidence to be able to talk about their faith and to share their faith with their friends at school. And it was reported that one of them was praying with their school friends before exams after going through the Youth Alpha course. And it's been such a transformational experience that the young people who were participants last time are actually going to be the hosts and facilitators for this new course in 2026. So it's going to be youth-led, and I'm really excited by that. Obviously, they'll be supported and helped in the background by adults, but the conversations and the sessions themselves are going to be facilitated by some young people. So I think that's really, really exciting. So if you have young people who you know, who you think might be interested in being part of conversations to talk about their faith or to explore faith perhaps for the first time, and a safe environment led by other young people, then please do let them know about this. And we'd also appreciate your prayers for Youth Alpha. You see there it begins with a day together on Saturday the 14th of March, and it continues on Zoom with an away day midway through as well on the 19th of April. So if you'd like more information on that, please get in touch with the Synod office. You see the email address there for Hannah in the office, who will be able to give you or direct you to more information, or I'll be able to get back to you as well if there's more information that would be helpful for you or for your young people. So that was the first thing, Youth Alpha, to share with you. We're looking forward to that launching in March. To quickly mention to you about the Synod picnic. So we're looking forward to gathering people of all ages together for this informal picnic. We're taking the theme, Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind and strength. There's going to be inflatables. There's going to be also some craftivism activities, some Christian meditation as well, opportunity to talk more about talking faith, and just a good time together. So it's taking place at Emmanuel Church in Loughborough. Do book your spot and let us know that you're able to make it. That would be fantastic to gather for fellowship and fun for churches right across the Synod. Really hope to see you at that. The Children and Youth Work development group within the Synod is really keen to support Greenbelt, which takes place obviously within our Synod region. Fantastic annual event, gathers lots of Christian people and justice activists from across the UK gather at Greenbelt, 27th to 30th of August. And if you are fortunate enough to be under the age or 25 and under, then you can apply for a £50 subsidy towards the cost of, or up to £50 subsidy for the cost of attending Greenbelt. And also we offer anyone, it's not age restricted, anyone connected with the Synod is invited to share in a breakfast that's provided as well each morning. So do get in touch if that is something you're interested in as well. Again, Hannah Holmes in the Synod office, email address trainingpa@urc5.org.uk for more information about that as well. Billy Logan has been our Synod Youth Rep for the past almost 2 years, and it's a 2-year term. And so we are in the process of recruiting a replacement, someone to represent the voice of children and young people into the Synod, but also into the General Assembly and denominational events, particularly around Youth Assembly. So if you know someone who might be interested in taking on this Synod role, then please do get in touch, as we're hoping to be able to appoint someone for Youth Assembly, which is at the end of February. So please get in touch if there is someone who would like to perhaps explore that possibility of taking on the role of Synod Youth Rep. Just a quicker highlight that we, as a denomination, we have this Padlet page, which keeps you up to date with all the different training events and opportunities and conferences and different resources and things that are happening. So do have a look at Padlet if you would like to have more details about that. We are keen to hear a number of churches use the pack for Advent, Advent Unpacked as it was called, and we're keen to hear feedback from those churches. So if you used that resource this year and would like to help us shape what future resources might look like, then please do get in touch. Again, information is on the newsletter for that. And the last thing I think to tell you about is that similar to these events, really, but the Children and Youth Work team at Assembly level have events that they call Talking About. And so the next one you can see there is the 18th of February, where they're going to be helping us to think through what it means to use inclusive language for our LGBTQ plus community and those sorts of issues. So do please sign up. Again, the link is there on the newsletter. Or get in touch if you'd like more information about the Talking About events. It's not the last thing, there's the last thing. 1T4 is a youth event, again, organised at Assembly level for young people aged 11 to 14. The cost will be covered by the Synod, and it'd be a fantastic weekend, again, just to meet with other young people from across the denomination. For a weekend residential for fun and games and worship activities and conversation around faith ideas. So hopefully that's just a bit of an update on some of the things that are happening. You may well already have received this newsletter in your email, but if you haven't and you would like to receive regular email newsletters to keep you up to date on all things happening, children and youth across the Synod and across the denomination, then do please get in touch with me. I'd be delighted to add you to our email subscribers list. So that is just a very quick update as we start our session together, and hopefully you will be able to get in touch if you're interested in hearing more about work with children and young people. We certainly appreciate your support around that. It is my duty and joy to be able to introduce to you our guest speaker for this evening. Rachel Jordan-Wolfe is the Executive Director, no less, of an organisation called Hope Together, which seeks to equip churches and Christians with practical and culturally aware resources to help us introduce Jesus to the people around us, right across the age range, which is fantastic. Their work is shaped by in-depth research into contemporary culture, including recently Talking Jesus survey, which was first conducted actually in 2015 and repeated in 2022. They have other aspects of research. I was having a look at the website earlier and was reminded about the Talking Toddlers research, which was done in February 2020, just before lockdown. And some really encouraging things on that bit of research as well, in terms of for our churches. Many of us have toddler groups, and there's some really encouraging signs there about how we can take those opportunities that are there to share faith or encourage that exploration with those who are connected with those groups. So we'll encourage you to explore that as well. And Rachel's here to share some of those findings and some of the research that she has been involved in and how they can help shape our strategies for reaching people with the good news of Jesus. So we really value this opportunity. We thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing your time and your expertise with us, and delighted to hand over to you now. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for all giving up some time on a Thursday to be here. So I'm talking to you from London. I'm in the basement of an old rectory here. My husband is a vicar in the Church of England and I lead Hope Together. I've just come back from sort of where have I been on a bit of a tour. I've been to Glasgow and I've been speaking up there. But here I am back in London to speak to you. So I'm going to share a bit of a screen. Except that, yeah, I'm going to share a bit of a screen for you so that we can do this. I'm going to go, yeah, lovely. Let's see if this works. And put that onto slideshow. Perfect. Is that all good? Can you all see everything? You'll have to give me a thumbs up as I can't hear from you. Excellent. All good. So this evening, what we want to have a little look at is what's particularly happening outside the church. I don't know if you've been watching the newspapers of late and seeing what's been coming up on the news. I'll come back to that. Did anyone see Sky News? This is the latest from Sky News where they were saying how did Gen Z become the most religious generation alive? Did anyone see this? Data shows Gen Z believe in a higher power more than any other generation, and Christian influencers have told Sky News what they think the change is down to. Do this, look this up. You can pop onto YouTube and find it. And this is Matilda Draper, who is a bit of a Christian influencer. She did Love Island and Towie Star. And she said she remembers when she was growing up that saying that you believed in God made you a bit of a loser. But now, actually, you couldn't be prouder because it's actually becoming really normal to believe in God if you are of this younger generation. So that was Sky News, and that's like about 2 weeks ago. How about The Guardian? Did anyone see The Guardian's article? It's younger people seeking some sort of spirituality. UK Bible sales reach a record high. There's been a surge, it's because they've looked obviously at the whole of 25. There's been a surge in 2025, and the sale correlates with church growth in attendances, particularly in England and Wales. So again, this is just last week, and these are some of the quotes from the people in the bookshops. Steve Barnett from Christian Bookshops says, and he's talking here about Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is not a Christian, but through him, a lot of people are going on a spiritual journey. Some are ending up in church, some are ending up elsewhere. Some are ending up in a good place. I would think ending up as a Christian in church is a good place. Or Sam Richardson from SPCK, who says, as we face worldwide political and social change, including the after effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, global wars, the rise of AI, and a growing mental health crisis, individuals are re-engaging with questions of meaning and spirituality. Big quotes. So that was The Guardian, and it keeps going. How about the Daily Mail? This is the Daily Mail. I like this one. God makes a comeback. God makes a comeback in Gen Z. Those in their teens and early 20s are half as likely to call themselves atheists compared to their parents. So if we're in that parent generation, if we're like the biggest atheist groups now, it's like your 40s and 50-year-olds. That's where most people who are atheists are. Beneath that now is this wave of spirituality and belief that is coming back, if you like. The tide is turning, and that's just published on the 28th. This is published on the 25th of January. So like literally, this is what is happening right now in our news. So what spurred that sudden, little bit of news on these things? Well, actually, it was this particular poll. Now, some of you have probably heard of the Quiet Revival poll that the Bible Society put out. Well, this particular gentleman, Christopher Gasson, obviously had not read that poll. And he did a 10,000 poll of the UK, and he was looking for similar things. Well, he wasn't actually. He was looking for publicity for his book, which was called. His book is called The Devil's Gospels: Finding God in Four Great Atheist Books. And to do a publicity stunt for this, what he thought he would do is he would have a little look at what was happening in the UK. And he was completely astounded when he discovered the level of spirituality in the younger generations. And you can see there, like the hotspot of Gen Z and millennials, and how they are the most spiritual generation. He wrote this report, so this is worth you having a look at if you haven't read it yet. This is a new report called Belief in Britain, and it was written by Christopher Gasson. And it's a look into the religious and spiritual landscape of the nation. And if you're great at stats, one poll that did the research, all those stats are up now on their website. So you can actually get behind this report. So obviously this is his interpretation of those statistics, but they're really invaluable to us as church. And this is what he said. He said, I commissioned this poll of 10,000 people, 10,000 Brits, representing the full breadth of religious and spiritual backgrounds across the country to help promote his book. And I love this. I expected the data to confirm what has been assumed for a long time. Britain is steadily becoming a more atheist country. The results are the reverse of what I was expecting. I always think it's really powerful when people go out to find one thing and actually they're completely, if you like, blown away because they find something completely different. And he writes, we have two generations of people, the millennials and Generation X, growing up in Britain, feeling emotionally bereft and struggling with conventional material life goals. After 17 years of economic stagnation, over-reliance on social media for human interaction, the isolations of COVID, political divisions over Brexit and immigration, who would not want to soar above it all to embrace a new sense of meaning, connection and self-worth. I just think it's fascinating that he wasn't expecting this. So a few things I've pulled out from his report because it's literally hot off the press. Can you see on the country picture? It will be easier because you'll see just a bit more of the detail, won't you now? So from this slide, what we can see, which is really interesting. Yeah, sorry, my screen was doing it the traditional way here, so I'd forgotten that I'd done it the other way. So you can see that London, can you see London, Birmingham, Belfast and Edinburgh have got some of the highest leading places on spirituality. So again, there's something about urbanisation here. And this will be driven again, particularly by when you look at the demographics of how people move around the UK, they move into the urban centres more in their 20s, and then they begin to move out of the urban centres when they perhaps get into their later 30s and 40s and 50s. So people move, and if you like, that is actually partly what we're seeing. The other trend that will be impacting this is ethnic diversity. So you get greater diversity again in the urban centres of like London and Birmingham. Belfast would be more of an outlier, but that's because again faith is partly tied up into the political landscape of that. But you can see that the cities are, if you like, driving the way when it comes to this rise in spirituality. So he's got these breaks here, the religious distribution in the UK. And I wanted to bring up what we found out in Talking Jesus. This is going back to 2021. And in 2021, we discovered that 48% of the UK population were Christian, and that was just before the census. Do you remember in 2021 we had the census? So it correlates with the census. We did this around the same time. The census is saying we've dropped under half of Christian. And then there's the census would give us about 5 to 6% max Muslim, so a little low on that. Then there's this rise of none of the above and the atheist. We thought probably though still that although people were more open, even that many years ago, we were not expecting such a landslide change in the younger generations. This is what we found in the whole age spectrum. That 29% of the 18 to 24-year-olds were saying they were Christian, and 34% of the sort of the 25 to 34-year-olds. So this was still a more traditional curve, but this is with Christian and no religion. And what's happened even in the last 5 years, which is what Christopher Gasson is saying, there has been quite a landslide change in young people and what they believe. So his first point is that young people are both more spiritual and more religious than older people. They also report becoming more spiritual and more religious in the past 5 years. So this is a really recent trend. Atheism appears to be most popular among people in their 40s and 50s. Younger people are less interested in atheism. And 3, he still found that Britons, young and old, were critical of religion and pessimistic about its outlook. So it's fascinating that even though there's been this rise, there's still quite a lot of, if you like, pessimism on the future of faith. All those things are in his report. I do suggest you can download it off the internet and give it a read. But particularly this one, that young people are more spiritual and more religious. So, well, how does this translate particularly when we look at Christians and looking at practicing Christians? So we're going back to Talking Jesus, but I've also broken out the Quiet Revival data. Why is this important? The Quiet Revival was a poll of England and Wales. It was 13,000 people. It was weighted, a really big and solid poll. And it showed us a little uptake even in practicing Christians from when we did Talking Jesus. So we measure practicing Christians as people who are regularly part of a worshipping community. That means at least once a month. And if they're praying regularly, that's at least weekly, and reading or listening to their Bibles weekly. And we make that into about 6% of the population in Talking Jesus. I broke that out of the Quiet Revival data, and it was about 7%. The interesting thing about this group of practicing Christians that we found, even when we did Talking Jesus, is that it was holding up across the generations. And so even when we did Talking Jesus in 2022 and published that, we were able to say there was no missing generation. I'm sure, like me, you've been to talks on the missing generations. And we've now got to stop using that language, because actually, rather than being a missing generation, they were completely equal, and now they're like moving up and beginning to almost overtake us. And 12% from the Quiet Revival, which is the Bible Society's survey, would be attending church monthly. So 12% of the population are in church at least once a month. And that is actually a big number. That is a big number. So that is a culturally a group that could shape and form culture other than just respond to culture. Great. That's a particular look. I like to look at that because it helps us understand who our team are. Now we're doing the next slide. If you haven't read the Quiet Revival, you need to grab a copy of that from the Bible Society, but we're going to do a few headlines because, again, this is 2025. What really struck out in the Bible Society report after that 12% of adults in England and Wales who are attending monthly was this 21% of men aged 18 to 24 who are regular churchgoers. Let me just say that again, because it's so completely, utterly extraordinary. 21% of men aged 18 to 24 are regular churchgoers. Now, if I had said that, we were even thinking that was possible or feasible, I don't know, even 7 years ago, you'd have all thought I was taking some level of, I don't know, something weird I'd had in my tea tonight to have come here and said that. So this is quite staggering, 21%. So the young men are more active in their church going than young women in their age bracket. And so this is a staggering switch. Now we can, when we get into the breakout group, you might want to have a chat about what, I don't think I'll put that in the questions, but it'd be a great thing to talk about. You can see that there's a whole movement that's happened around young men in our country. And part of this overflow is that they are turning up in church. And 33% of all adult churchgoers are now aged 18 to 34. So again, this is a really enormous change that we're experiencing. There is no longer a missing generation. I just think how many talks I went to on the missing generation. They're no longer missing. In fact, they've overtaken. They've overtaken the other generation. So the curve is now, if you like, it goes up in the younger generations, up in the older, and the dip is Gen X. I'm Gen X. The dip is in that 40s and 50s where atheism is much higher, and then we've got these two, if you like, two peaks either side, which is the older generations and the younger generations. This is a curve and a dynamic that nobody predicted. We all expected what Christopher Gasson said, which was the inevitable decline of the church, if you like, in the rising tide of secularism. And so it's kind of taken us all by surprise. I was at where was I? I was at Wycliffe Hall in Oxford, and I had the pleasure of speaking alongside David Kinnaman. He leads Barna, a really big global research company, and he's doing a new book, a new report called Jesus is Back. What a great title. It's not come out yet. It'll be around by the end of the year. We all need to look at Jesus is Back. And he has been shocked by what's happening. And for the first time ever, like in the records that they've kept, and in America, more men are going to church in America than women. So this phenomenon is also happening in America. It's happening also across like areas of Europe, places where, who was I talking to? Oh, I had the joy and pleasure of being with Rhiannon McClere who wrote the Quiet Revival report. I was with her on Tuesday and talked to her, and she said, it's like in so many areas where secularism was advancing fastest, like Finland and North, these places are actually again seeing this great switch as well of people seeking spirituality and seeking faith. The interesting thing around these young men is many of them are going to the Catholic Church. So for the first time in this country, the other really significant thing that's happening is the Catholic Church is about to overtake the Church of England. And that hasn't happened probably since Henry VIII. So we're living through some extraordinary transformative changes. And this is the growth in the Catholic Church and also the growth in the Orthodox Church. So many of these young men are being very much attracted to ancient faith, unchanged faith, non-modernized. So then I sit there and I sort of have to scratch my head, because I remember being on the Fresh Expressions team way back when, and it's almost like now we need almost the opposite when we're dealing particularly with these younger generations. They're not looking for something that is new. They've got everything new they could possibly have. They've got all the entertainment in the world they could have. They don't actually want all of that. They're saturated through their devices with everything like that. What they're going for is ancient, a framework for life, rules to live by, a moral code, our high bar. There's this incredible, if you like, seeking of something that they feel that we have lost. And that's why particularly they're going towards a more ancient faith. At the same time, we've got to work out that although we've got still got more young women than we would have expected worshipping in church, the rise amongst young women is not as great as the rise amongst young men. When did we ever think we were going to be saying that? And that's because, again, to do with when you look at your phone and you look at algorithms, young men often get one feed and young women are getting a different feed. And this is actually causing some of a split in practice and in how they live their lives. So we need to look at that. Then we've also got massive discipleship tasks as people are coming in. We see that here in our church. We've got people coming in who kind of got half-baked, half-formed ideas and theology that they've taken off the internet. And it's not well formed. It's been formed by influencers and other people. But we're thrilled they're here, and it's wonderful that they've rocked up in church. But then we've got quite a big discipleship task, which I think is going to be also a big calling to the church as to how you disciple this generation. So exciting times to live through. We've not seen anything like this for a long time. And we as the church have got to play a very almost quick game to think about the implications of what is happening right now. This is another piece of research. So I'm so glad, Richard, you mentioned Talking Toddlers, because guess what? We've redone it. And my draft one of the report has just gone to be checked. And if that's all okay, we will be popping all these diagrams in, and that will be being published soon. So I thought you could have a bit of a preview. Why not? So what's happening amongst the younger generations here? So this is a sample of parents with children aged 0 to 4 that we've done a piece of research on. And I'm just going to do, again, just a little bit of headlines from this. Our reach has increased in this group since 2019, and it was enormous in 2019. It's now like almost 80% of the parents with a child aged 0 to 4 are in touch with a church of any denomination in the UK. They're in touch with us through things like toddler groups, some through church worship, all different areas, but we have grown in our reach amongst that group. 13%, you can see there, would be practicing Christians, active Christians. So they meet those criteria that we had for active and practicing Christians. And 20% aren't going to anything we do. But the really good news is that half of that 20% who currently aren't engaged would love to come along. That is staggering to me. Half of that group who aren't engaged would actually like an invite, which would give us a 90% reach to every parent in the UK with a child under the age of 5. I mean, again, this is like, it's a bit unheard of. So, and the interesting thing is they'd love to have a letter. They would be very happy when we ask them how they'd like to be invited. They'd be really happy if you dropped a paper invite through their letterbox, which really made me smile. Very old school. But the interesting things here that are worth noting, of the fringe parents who are coming along in that 67%, they're doing higher levels of association with church. And when I looked at this with the sociologist, the researcher who was helping us with this report, they said they were really surprised by that. So we've lived under some very big narratives. And if you're around my age or older, you've lived with these narratives for a long time. We've lived with a narrative of decline in the church for a long time. So we've got to get our heads round that is the wrong narrative. We've also lived with, sociology had this narrative of the secular individual and polarization of society and people not wanting to associate with something bigger. And so in this measurement, what we've seen since 2019 is a higher level of people wanting to be associated with their local church. So when we asked people who went to toddler groups in 2019, they didn't sort of see it as their local church. I guess we were more, it was almost more of a, they went to the toddler group. It was more, we consumed what was on offer. But in 2025, they've got higher levels of, this is my church. So they might just be in your toddler group, but they honestly have a view that you are their church. They actually want association and belonging and a higher level with you. And then 50% of this fringe group the parents will examine faith by being with you. And they are looking for more, they're looking for high levels of spirituality. They want good values for their children. They want more Bible stories for their children. Things that they weren't registering even in 2019, in 2025, they're looking for. Does that make sense? So there's this higher appetite. There's a higher appetite in this group for more of being you're the local church, and they want more faith for their children. They don't know how to do that, but they're coming because they are looking to the church to belong to it and grow in levels of association and in levels of faith and Bible story and songs and things, a level of spirituality for their children. All of this is just so staggering. This is actually a quote from Rhiannon from the report, the Quiet Revival report. This is like you've done more than just the Quiet Revival, but it's a good summary. These are striking findings that completely reverse the widely held assumption that the church in England and Wales is in terminal decline, said study co-author Dr. Rhiannon McAleer. While some traditional denominations continue to face challenges, we've seen significant broad-based growth among most expressions of church, particularly in Roman Catholicism and Pentecostalism. Interesting, they're both very experiential. There are now over 2 million more people attending church than there were 6 years ago. That is amazing. And if you look at Roman Catholicism and Pentecostalism, what is it that they are offering that people are finding so attractive? They haven't changed. They haven't tried to become, if you like, culturally modern and relevant. What they've done is stuck with the way that they do things, which I find fascinating, and that is attractive. And they both offer a level of experiential, that you are in contact with something bigger and greater than yourself. Almost that concept of God as other. Um, it's not just swinging in and having a cup of coffee in your hand. I don't know how to explain. It's really not like, it's not like I want it like everything else in my life as a consumer experience. There is the yeah, the transient, the other, the bigger, the greater, the mysterious, the experience that God is actually going to turn up and we are going to sense him with us. And I think some of that is really attractive. And this is what people are yearning for. And I've put this picture in because I feel, I'm sure you know Narnia. I feel as if we, as the church, we got used to that narrative of decline. We got used to winter. And if you know the C.S. Lewis Narnia books, do you remember they lived under the power of the White Queen for so long? You needed all those fur coats, and you huddled under lampposts and you whispered secrets, hoping nobody would hear you. And the church has kind of got into that mentality. It's almost like a bunker mentality. We'll just hang on and we'll whisper about our faith and hope almost that nobody hears us. And yet now King Jesus is on the move. There is a move of the Spirit. More people are even having dreams and visions and just turning up at church. So yes, there's the cultural phenomenon. So there's the cultural phenomenon of people like Jordan Peterson. There is the troubles in the world that have got bigger and bigger, that have wobbled people. And at the same time, there is a move of the Holy Spirit. People are literally turning up saying, I saw Jesus. Something happened. I had a dream. I had a vision. And we are living in a new day. And it's like the spring that we all prayed for and hoped for has actually begun to arrive. But we've got a choice. We can carry on in our fur coats, huddled under the lamppost, whispering, or we can begin to shed our coats and learn to live in a time of springtime and harvest. But we need to examine what that looks like and what new practices we are going to need, if you like, to embrace this time, this springtime that we are experiencing. Great. I hope you're with me. Are you with me just for a few more stats? Just a few more to keep us going. But remember that experience of Narnia. When we did Talking Jesus, in some ways we predicted what was coming. And we asked people who were non-Christians, if they wanted to find out about the Christian faith, what would they do? The three top answers are actually what we're seeing them do. So they said they'd search on Google. All of this searching online is the number one thing that they said they would do if they wanted to find out about the Christian faith. That tells me that you need an online presence. So if you haven't kept your online presence that you had during lockdown, re-find it. Because this is something that Rhiannon was saying again, the Catholic Church has done a really, really good job of its online presence and kept its online presence going, which means when people are searching, that is what they're finding. So we're not online. When they first come to look for faith, we won't be found. So your church needs to, switch it back on, get your church back on YouTube on Sunday. However, you're like, oh, but I've got people in the building now. Yes, you have. But this mission field, this harvest, they want to see you first. They want to see what you're doing, even if it's little messages that you put out saying you're welcome, but thinking how, and if you're not sure how to use it all, find a 14-year-old and ask them how to put more of your church online and how they would do it, and they will do it brilliantly for you. So find someone who's a digital native if you're not one, and say, look, I recognise the first place in your community people are going to search when they're spiritually hungry, which they are, is online. How can we be in that place and presence, and what do we do to make sure that we're seen? I love it because they then said they'd go to a local church. And you know what? Utterly staggeringly, that is what they're doing. I was over in Brecon, in Swansea and Brecon diocese with all their clergy, church in Wales, and they were saying, I asked them, has any of this happened where you are? Because I thought, it's interesting to know how far has this got. And this guy vicar put his hand up and said, "Yes, I have had 8 young men in it was in a short space of time who had brought themselves to church and joined his Anglo-Catholic traditional church. He hadn't done anything new or different, and they have now regular part of his worshipping community. So they just turned up at church, and there are quite a lot of stories like that. And then I absolutely love this other high one, which is reading the Bible. So I was in Motherwell on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I talked to this woman in a Christian bookshop, and she said, yes, young people are walking into her Christian bookshop and asking her for a copy of the Holy Bible. I love it. They walk in and they go, hello. Sometimes they've had a vision or a dream. Sometimes they've just woken up that day and felt compelled that they need to come and find a holy Bible. And they come in going, I'm looking for a holy Bible. Do you have any? Where should I start? And she has the joy of, and so she's now put this stand of Bibles right in front of the door as you come in to try to help these people who are searching when they walk into her shop looking for a holy Bible. And then she tries to help them with, oh, you could read this one or that one. This is something we're really passionate about in Hope. We've had 140,000 of our Gospels this year have gone out through Hope Together in local churches into the hands of people who are searching and looking to find out more. We did this in a really... The things we found out through another piece of research is what it looks like matters, because design matters to a younger generation, and that they wanted to better read it easily. So it's NIRV, it's reading age 9 to 10, and we made it beautiful. We can bespoke these as well for areas. We take all these photos out and we put local photos in, which has been really popular. But 140,000 so far have gone out this year of Bibles. This ties in with the Quiet Revival. So remember that 12% of people regularly part of a church. They asked the other group, were they interested? 1 in 3 of the people who currently aren't attending church would love to have an invite. That is amazing. So 1 in 3 of the people in your community who aren't currently attending your church or any of the churches in your area would love it if they were simply invited to come to church. That is not too scary for people to do. Would you like to come to church with me? 1 in 4 people would open a Bible. Hence this incredible growth in people buying, in the Bible sales growth and other things. If we don't offer them to them, they're finding them anyway, which I find utterly amazing. 2 in 3 would appreciate prayer. What an offer we have. This is sort of like, it's a crazy opportunity to share faith because there is such openness out there. We've been finding Jesus, another piece of research from the Evangelical Alliance. You can look that up if you've got time. People are coming to faith in 6 months to a year at the moment. So they're coming to faith really fast. You know, we used to have those long journeys, 15 craft activities, 4 invites to this, 3 discovery courses, and maybe. It's all happening very fast. People coming to faith in 6 months to a year, mostly, which is fast. 33% of the students who are non-Christian would love to read the Bible with a friend. That's amazing, which is why we did these. This is how we've been doing Bibles. I particularly like this because it's very... We've realised that we can go back to very simple, authentic mission. We don't have to, if you like, cover it. We just have these Bibles on a table. We have a stand that says free Bibles outside our church, and we get to chat to people. And it's not just us here in London. This is the people of Southwater Community Church. This is a village of 11,000 people. And this is Kath and her friend running a Bible stand. And they went out not expecting anything to happen, but they thought they'd give it a go. They were out for 1 hour. People were coming, getting a gospel. People were giving that to their friend and coming back for a second copy. This is crazy. This is Southwater. This is not like the middle of some kind of, you know, and you can see they're just very normal people sitting there with their cardboard box. There's no fireworks. There's authenticity. There's a genuineness to what they're doing, and that's what they've been up to. And I feel as we come into land, you know what, we are, I love this passage in 1 Corinthians 5. Of all that we've received from the Lord, We're in a period where we are Christ's ambassadors. So I'm just going to read this to us. For Christ's love compels us, because we are convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died. And he died for all, that those who should live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised again. All this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ, and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. He gave us, not somebody else. He gave you and me the ministry of reconciliation. That God was reconciling the world to himself in Christ, not counting people's sins against them. And he's committed to us. I mean, sometimes I think, didn't you want another team? But he chose us. He's committed to us the message of reconciliation. He's committed it to you for where you are. And we, therefore, are Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. And I tell you, now is the time of God's favour, and now is the day of salvation. So we'd love to help you. If you're not a part of the e-news for Hope, we would absolutely love it if you would want to be, because we send out what's happening all the time. We'll be sending out the Talking Toddler report soon. We'll be talking about how you can get these and give these out in really simple ways. If a Bible table is too much, just leave them in your toddler group, in your food bank. Go into school. We're creating a New Testament for the 500th anniversary of Tyndale's first ever English New Testament. Take that into your local schools, because there's so many school children who would be interested and who'd want that, and he lost his life. There's a great story there to be told. So we'll have a Tyndale New Testament probably by April that people can use to tell that story. We're also doing Adopt a Bench, which we don't even have a website for because it's so simple. We're just getting people to sit on a bench and pray, like when Jesus sat on a well and waited and then had a divine encounter with someone. And that can happen at any time of the day. You don't even need to be an organised team. You could just WhatsApp a few people in your church and have a little Adopt a Bench team. You just sit on a bench and you wait to see who Jesus brings, and then you talk to them. And you make sure you've got a little gospel in your pocket, or we've got these beautiful reformed, we've got these beautiful little healed, restored tracks. This is our gospel track, but it uses kintsugi: formed, healed, broken, healed, restored. If you want to help your people in your church to have something, and Lincoln Darts has just said to us, could we make this into how people could share their faith, because they could all learn to talk about this and have this in their pockets to be able to share their faith. It's really a simple way of explaining the gospel. And it doesn't use loads of jargon. It's again, simple understanding for people. So we're here to help. But the big thing I want to say is, this is an exciting time to be alive. We never in our living memory have had a time when so many people want to find out about the good news of Jesus Christ. And so if we can get that through to the people in our church, think how many people they could ask to church, offer a gospel to, or offer to pray for. Ask them to church, offer them a gospel, offer to pray for them. These are really simple things. Learn how to explain what it is that we believe from just this little thing. But it's a great time, and now is the time of God's favour, and now is the time of salvation.
And now in the chat. Thank you. So have you seen more people interested in coming along to things where you are? With the openness to church, the Bible and prayer, what could you do to help people connect to your church? And would you be up for trying any of these new ideas that have been shared? So we'll see if we can post those when you get into your breakout rooms as well. But you've got an idea of what those are to help you get started. Welcome back, everyone. Great to not quite be able to see everyone, but good that you are back with us. As I was just saying, if you didn't hear, Rachel's helpfully put some of the links to some of the research papers into the meeting chat. So you'll be able to find those there. If you click on them, they should open in your web browser. You can copy and paste and then read them later. So we do hope you had a stimulating and interesting conversation in your breakout groups. This is a chat to bring anything that perhaps came out of that, or anything that you perhaps individually were thinking about, or it came from Rachel's presentation, and perhaps you have a question or a comment or some sort of response to share in the wider group. So feel free to unmute and share if there is something you want to ask, comment upon. Anyone brave enough, or anyone got something they'd like to share or ask?
So I think what you said about Google and being online, I mean, that's really important in the days when Google can kick up all sorts of stuff. If I go on and I end up on, I mentioned this in the group, a right wing Christian group that's into misogyny and racism, you know, you might get the impression that's what Christianity is. So to have a profile that's going to come up that's talking about a welcoming church for all, you know, and standing by what Jesus was really all about, is very important. But you know, you've got to have the skills and whatever to do that, and someone keen to keep it updated. But that was really interesting that that was top of the list, I thought. Which again, it probably just reflects society that people do that. Now I'll just Google it. Just the danger of what's out there.
Yeah, and it is where people are going to start. So if we're not there, they're just not going to find us. So you suddenly realize, because it's just so important that we have a presence online.
And the other thing that you said about paper copies and inviting people with a letter, you know, that's really interesting in today when you think that's old hat. We've got just opposite our house, the building, and have been a new estate of 57 houses on well, it's a plot of land the size of a postage stamp, and they're all going to live in little boxes. And it's a great opportunity for our church to become involved in just, you know, being community to them, because they're not going to have a community. They're just going to be moved in from all over the place. And the idea that, you know, a paper invitation, that's really interesting, rather than you know,
it's funny. I think it probably almost stands out in a Google world. You've got this piece of paper. It's actually really a positive thing. I also think if you can be courageous enough to knock on all those doors as people move in, people will be absolutely delighted that the local church is there and welcoming them. So I think
we've already bought the welcome to your new home cards.
Well, you're off to a great win, and it will make a difference, because you know that you're here inviting them into community and you're there. So really positive.
I found it interesting that social media wasn't quite so high. It was a kind of Google presence. It was a website presence and that kind of searching, rather than get yourself on TikTok and Insta and be all hip and trendy and, you know, doing all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, I wonder if it will become higher. But yeah, so what we did discover was that all the people who ticked YouTube were younger, and all the people who ticked Google were older. So if you are, as we know, if you ask people in the internet world, if you are, I know, under 20, you were going to go to YouTube to find out about, I don't know, how to change a plug, a fuse in a plug. And if you are over 20, you're going to go onto Google and read how to change. And I don't know what AI is going to do. So obviously with ChatGPT, we've got another whole iteration. We're changing again. Now most people are putting, you know, at the top of, you know, all your searches now, all mine are AI doing all the searching, and then they're making a consolidated answer. So worth having a go. Like, you could have a go because you live where you live, of putting in, I'm interested to go to a local church. What local church could you recommend? And see what AI is saying. Because it would be fascinating to know what AI are going to say about the local churches in your area. Are you on that list? Can AI find you? Because AI will do all the searching of all the different churches, and then probably, I don't know, I've not done it, but it'd be fascinating to see how, whether you're there at all. So again, we keep changing. So it was Google, but we've changed since then. It was YouTube, but now I think loads of people will be using Chat GPT to do their searching and their summarization.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be a fascinating bit of research to do for a local church. Ask Chat GPT.
Yeah. And if you want help and you haven't got a 14-year-old, we love working with CV Global. CV Global love to help local churches and give like seminars and advice on how to live in a digital world and how to do mission in a digital world. They know how, for example, to get the top of like whether or not to use a Facebook ad, and you could use a Facebook ad in your area. It will reach a certain demographic. It won't reach everybody, but things like that. They've got loads of skills. CV Global. So if you're looking help with the digital, please, we don't do that because we've got great friends who do. So I always point people to CV Global.
Great,
We use something called Church Suite. So anybody who comes in and sort of signs up, even if they've come to coffee morning or toddler group, then their information's on if they want it to be, and then Church Suite goes out with adverts for anything that's happening, sign up and whatever. And I think we've had success with that in terms of people joining in.
Yeah, great. Yeah, really helpful.
Thanks, Ruth. Any other comments or
the other thing I noticed on the stats you put up about how people find us is actually, if you add up all the percentages of people who would go and talk to somebody that they know to be a Christian, whether that's a friend or family member or workplace or a minister, that actually added up to about 36%. So that's still important too, isn't it? To be aware of.
Absolutely. And Ruth, I didn't, if you look at all the Talking Jesus research, we do a big piece on, we did a big piece on the importance of talking. So we discovered how many people know a Christian. That's dropped since when we did the research in 2019. We're hoping that goes up again when we do it in 27, because we were coming out of COVID in 22 and we felt that might have shrunk our circle of influence. We're hoping that that's the reason. So we discovered that about 58% of the population knew a Christian. We discovered that they really liked us. Absolutely beautiful. They really like the Christian that they know. They think we're friendly, caring, good-humoured and generous. Yes. So that helps a lot of people when they realise that someone knows that they're a Christian, but they really like Christians. That's quite counter. Again, it's a counter narrative to the big narrative we live under. So people know us and they like us. And that's really helpful when you're trying to get confidence in your church. So we've got a Talking Jesus course on that site that goes through some of this research that you can run as small groups, or you can run as a central course, or you can just release people to do whatever with it. But it will help people to go through the Talking Jesus research and gain more confidence and practice talking about their faith. So you're absolutely right, Ruth. Face-to-face is still really, really important to people. So they like us, they know us. More, if you are younger, you are more likely to have had a conversation with that Christian than if you were older. So our younger generations are doing more faith sharing than our older generations. So great. Tom's like, he's got some copies of the Talking Jesus course if you'd like to do it. So even better. So that's really fascinating. The younger generations are doing more talking than the older generations. But when people do have a conversation with us, 1 in 3 of those non-Christians who have a conversation would like to know more about Jesus or experience him for themselves. So we actually ask people both about knowledge and about experience and encounter. And we discovered that it's not exactly the same. There's an overlap, but some people, they will want to go down a knowing. They want to find out first. And other people, they're coming through the door of experience. They want to experience or encounter, and then they'll sort out what they think. And so when we think about evangelism, we need to think about both of those things. we tend to lean on one or the other depending on our personalities, but sometimes they're looking for knowledge and therefore they're going to go away and want to read something or have a long intellectual conversation about it. And other people, they're going to want to experience, they want to going to come through from prayer or through coming into a meditation thing. Or we the other night we just put loads of candles outside our church, and we did something that the Catholic Church does. The Catholic Church call it night fever. And they open their churches and they put candles. We use the plastic candles that you just, battery operated, as a big sort of pathway up. Opened the church and invited people into a space for encounter, and people really, really loved that. So again, if you could leaflet you could leaflet and tell your community that you're going to have a night of encounter, but you would attract a different group to that, probably to you would to say the Alpha course, because the Alpha course actually, although it's a reason experiential, it's more like we're going to answer these questions. So again, very simple to do, just candles, inviting people into a space to encounter. But people were so thrilled that the church was open of an evening, because often they're working. We've got a high working population here. They were really, and it was beautiful. It's really good for the dark months. It looked stunning. It looked really inviting, and it was I'm into simple. Like the camping table with a free Bible sign is actually very simple, especially on a cardboard box. And actually lighting your church with, fake candles, putting on some beautiful music. It's really simple.
I know there are some years, certainly there's one in Scotland I'm aware of, that there's a programme called Night Church that they do during the winter months. And again, it sounds very similar. It's put candles out.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's some music in the background. There might be an odd reading or whatever here and there, but like you say, keep it simple, and make it about that encounter, which came out in what you said earlier. That idea of having a connection with the other, and finding that it's real, and that.
And we had some next step. I always think, what's your next step? We had gospels out for people to take away, and we were clearly inviting them back to church, but we were just letting people come in and be. And then some people were coming and really wanted a conversation. One girl I just left because she was just crying, and I'm like, I'm actually going to let you you're actually having I just need to let you be, and I'm here if you need. Do you know what I mean? So just trying to work that out as to how it. But people were thrilled, and they could drop in and they could drop out, so there was a real freedom to that. But it was beautiful. It was really, again, really simple, but worked really well, because, as you say, Richard, the encounter. I think if you didn't have a big footfall, you'd need to really make sure people knew it was happening. So again, a leaflet, a flyer, an invitation through social media, asking the church to bring their friends. Because again, if they're finding it difficult to invite them to a higher bar, just inviting them into an evening, an encounter evening, might be a bar that they feel, because we're trying to help people to better share their faith and talk about their faith. Some people find that easy. Some people need, if you like, again, the Christians need a lower entry bar. But
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from anyone else?
Okay.
Do you have prayer support while you put this function on, the encounter one?
Well, we have a lot of prayer happening in our church, so I think that would be a good idea. We just were open on a Thursday night, and we just threw the doors open on that day and stuck out all the candles to give it a go. And then my husband, who didn't know that we were doing that, was like, oh my word, what's happening in the church? And came round to find out. But that was quite handy, because someone had come in and I said, oh, and here's the vicar, you can ask them. You can ask them that question. But yeah, we have quite a lot of prayer happening in our church at the moment. We have a 6 o'clock in the morning prayer meeting for the really keen, and then that's followed on Tuesday and Wednesday by a 7 o'clock prayer meeting. So that's helping us to really put prayer back in the centre of what we do. So I think it's a great idea to have prayer. But we were also like, if I saw somebody in there, I was just praying. If I wasn't talking to somebody, I was just standing there praying. And there was worship music on. But hoping to get that into a more regular pattern. So we do the Bible table every Sunday. And we're hoping to get a more regular pattern of just opening the church with a candle in the dark months, because that will work really well. But yes, I was thinking just before, when Richard said any more questions, I was thinking we haven't talked much about prayer. We really think, like, praying around all the streets in your community Prayer walking the streets, so valuable. We've got some areas who are prayer walking all their streets and then going round all the doors, offering a Bible, inviting people to church, and have had great conversations. But they prayer walked first. And YWAM our friends YWAM Youth Mission have a really great app that you can use to mark the streets that you've prayed for, and then even mark the houses that you've had a conversation in. It's GDPR compliant. And you say to the people, we've had a conversation, are you happy to receive it? Well, is that okay if we put it in the app? Because then you won't get 25 people coming to your door offering you a gospel, so that the church can work out where people have been and where people haven't been. But praying for your streets, praying for your community, going door to door, people are seeing that is seeing people who are really interested and want a Bible, want to come along. Again, quite old school.
Can I just ask what the gospel is that you have there?
At the moment we've got Mark, Luke, and John. But let me get you a John. We've just done out of the cardboard box. So if you're in a more rural area, John is all nature images.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Mark is much more trendy, but a mix actually.
Yeah. So are they possible to get hold of those?
Yeah. So we have all this on it. We have a little shop on our website.
Oh, right.
And
Okay.
I think if you buy 100 of these, you can get them for like £1.35. When you hand them to people, they think you have given them a really beautiful, valuable gift.
Yeah.
Because they're stunning. So we try to make them, and we've done them. So an area in Nottingham, Beeston, we took all of these pictures out and we put the area of Beeston's pictures in. So they ordered 10,000 for Beeston, which is an area just above Nottingham.
Yeah.
And Bromley are going to do the same. Don't know why it's all bees, but Bromley, we're going to take all the pictures out, and then all the churches in Bromley are getting together. We'll order at least 10,000, and then they're doing it together as all the churches. It's beautiful. They're going to pray all the streets, and then we're going to knock every door and offer people a Bromley Bible. And Beeston were really clever. They went out on the local Facebook groups and said, we're going to create this. Could people from Beeston who would like their pictures in the Beeston Bible, if you send them in, then we would love to use them. So that got the local community photographer groups were the ones that actually put all the pictures in, which was beautifully clever and got that interest.
I wouldn't be surprised if you have another bee soon, and Bulwell might be next in the Nottingham area. Bulwell.
Great.
Yes.
Yes, again, kind of, it makes it really lovely. And then we can QR code to wherever you want as well. So Bromley, we're going to probably create a website where we can QR code to that website that sort of helps you to find a local church in Bromley, that sort of thing. And we did that with these as well. For Lincoln Diocese, we took this off and we've put one on they created a beautiful seeker page on Lincoln Diocese website. But if you're seeking to find more about faith, and so we re-QR coded those to their website. So that was quite helpful too, just to try to work with people and help them.
Sounds like there's lots of support and materials and resources available to help our churches. Thank you so much. That really has been a fascinating evening, and I hope that everyone feels encouraged and inspired, and that there is that resounding, well, at least that maybe behind that third question, that maybe we might be willing to try one of these keeping it simple ideas and things that you've suggested to us. A reminder that the links in the chat there, so if you want to follow up on any of those ideas or research papers and things that Rachel pointed us to, then do make use of those links in the chat. Just a final couple of things to say to you before it's time to move on and continue with whatever you have going on for the rest of the evening. So the next session like this, next Talking Faith Zoom session on Tuesday, the 21st of April. The guest speaker at that time is Phil Knox, who's a senior specialist with the Evangelical Alliance in Evangelism and Missiology, I should say. So do come along then. If you can, do register with the same way as you have done for this evening. It'd be great to see you then. And then the next one beyond that is Thursday, the 23rd of July. And this time, the guest speaker is Reverend Dr. Joe Cox-Darling from the Methodist Church, who is a minister there and a practical theologian. So really look forward to seeing you again then. Just a reminder, I mentioned this earlier about the Synod picnic, 16th of May. It would be fantastic if you were able to join that as well. And the images are there for you as well for that Synod picnic, 16th of May, and also the Autumn Overnighter event. This is a brand new initiative, inviting you to come and spend 24 hours or so at Cliff College in Derbyshire. It's open to anyone who's connected with a URC or local ecumenical partnership church within the Synod. And more details will follow, but do please put the dates into your diary so that you can make it along. And what a brilliant way to celebrate Halloween by being together with your Synod colleagues at the beautiful site of Cliff College. And yeah, just a reminder again then, I mentioned this earlier, the Greenbelt subsidy for anyone age 5 to 25, and that free breakfast if you choose to come along and join us at Greenbelt this year. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. As a reminder as well of the prayer cards that hopefully you will have seen. There are more available. If you would like more from the Synod office, do get in touch if you'd like more of those. But perhaps it's appropriate that we use this prayer as our closing prayer for this evening. So let's pray. God, present in every conversation, grant us, through your Holy Spirit, new boldness in talking faith. May all our speaking and our listening serve you, the one through whom the Word became flesh. Enable us to connect what we see and hear around us and what we know of you in Jesus, to help others come to know him too. May the words of faith we share with others more closely reflect our faith in your word to us in Christ. We ask this in the name of Jesus, trusting in the Spirit to grant us the words we need. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you again, Rachel, and hopefully we'll see you again next time. Take care and God bless. Until then.